Hey everyone, it's Josh back with Cardboard Chronicles. In this episode, I'm interviewing Ray from Philly. He was kind enough to bring me onto his show, so now I'm returning the favor. Hope you guys enjoy it. And don't forget to check out howtocollectcards.com, a website I created dedicated to helping collectors of all skill levels build their collections. Feeling like you just don't know where to begin, you don't know what all these different things mean within the hobby, I've created this dictionary and I'm giving it away completely free. It has over 120 terms, all the terms that you need to know to get started collecting cards. We're also offering an advanced training course that is comprised of 17 different parts, everything from learning what cards you should be focused on buying for yourself, what cards are worth, where to buy the cards, when to buy cards to save yourself the most money, how to avoid different mistakes within the hobby that a lot of people make. It's just got everything that you need to be successful collecting cards, so please check that out. We've also got a bunch of new bonus content, and any new content that I create for the training course gets added for free, so if you've bought the course already, you're going to get all that new content, and it's free for life. I'm going to keep adding stuff to it. There's always going to be new content helping everyone. So please check it out. It's really extensive. It's got tons of great information. I think it's going to bring a lot of value to a lot of people. Hey everyone, here's Ray from Philly. How's it going, Ray?
Hey Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Today's a bit of a different episode for everyone. We're gonna talk baseball. I know it's way out of my comfort zone, but I'm happy to bring something new to the table and get some new exposure to a different sport that I haven't covered. So I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Josh. It's a privilege for me to be on your channel. I've watched your channel for quite some time now, so um, you're getting me into basketball, so so that's pretty cool.
Nice. All right. Well, why don't you start us off and just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background in the hobby.
All right, well, I'm from the Philadelphia area, Philadelphia, PA, and I started collecting 40 years ago, 1979. Um, my grandfather bought me a pack of cards in 79. And then 1 year later, in 1980, I was in a store and I saw my first baseball card price guide magazine, um, which I still have. And I saw, prices on baseball cards and things like that. And I saw an ad in there from a place in Maryland called Den's Collector's Den, where you can buy a binder and sheets in there, and they monogrammed your name into the binder. And I thought that was just incredible. I was like, wow, you can have your name embroidered in the binder in gold letters. I thought that was just phenomenal. And, my grandfather taught me everything about baseball and the history of baseball. The Philadelphia A's used to be here in Philadelphia, so he was a big Connie Mack and Jimmy Fox fan and Lefty Grove. So I heard a lot of stories throughout the years of the old Philadelphia A's. He always said the wrong team left instead of it should have been the Phillies, but I grew up with a winning team, so I was happy with that. So I started getting involved by putting the cards in binders in 1980, and then by the late 80s, I started going to my first store. Started going to my first shows around 1989, and then that's when I got hooked on baseball cards even more. So it was just a phenomenal experience for me. Uh, just learning the history of the Philadelphia A's and baseball cards. It just felt like you were a part of something special, with baseball, because it has such a long history. And um, you just felt like when you got a card of a rookie player, you felt like you had a piece of that player and a piece of that history.
Hmm.
Um, then I would say probably about 4 years ago, I got into the PSA set registries, which is really addicting and a lot of fun at the same time. So uh, I eventually looked onto their website because before I never really got into graded cards. It was mainly just raw cards, and started looking into detail on that. And because when you get back into the hobby or start collecting, my best advice is you should have a goal and know what you want to do, because if you start going in all different directions, you start spending a lot of money and wasting a lot of money on stuff that where if you don't have a goal, uh, you can be all over the place. It's good to be diversified, but you want to have something a little more structured where you know what you want to do. Some people do binders, some people do just sets, complete sets, um, like say an 82 tops or 83, just do all the years and stuff like that. But the PSA set registries are a lot of fun because it's also a little bit on the competitive edge where there's rankings on certain sets. So um, and how they rank it is they go by the amount of cards that you have. So say a particular set, like this one I do here is the 300 Great Baseball Cards of the 20th Century by Mike Payne.
Mm-hmm.
So based on how many cards you have for that set and the grades, they do a calculation of what your grade, your score is. So right now I'm 8th on that set, and there's about 100 people in that set registry. So of course, the higher the grade you get in your cards, the more points you get for your standings. And it's basically bragging rights. I mean, you don't win anything or anything like that, but it's just good for if you have a friend that's in the same set or anything like that. You can just basically, just for bragging rights, have a little fun. Like you got a card that moved you up from 8th to 7th in your ranking for the set registry. So that's fun in there. And then there's certain sets, a lot of people don't do stuff like that. They'll do a set registry for a certain decade or a set registry for a certain era, like pre-war or post-war. I'm in so many sets, it's not even funny. There's one set that I do called the Post-War Rookie Hall of Fame set, which is rookie cards of Hall of Famers from 1948 to current day. The war ended in 1945, but there was no cards made in 1945, 1946, very little in 1947. So this set registry called the Post-War Rookie Hall of Fame starts at 48 and goes to current day of anybody that's in the Hall of Fame now. So that's another fine set. And there's another one that I do called an All-Star Cardboard Memories. I have the book for that right here. So this is a set based on former baseball player Rico Petrocelli, who did this set based on players that his career started, I think, in 1965. So his time span was when he started, there was players that were towards their end of their careers like Mantle and Mays and Aaron. And then when Rico Petrocelli's career ended in the mid 70s, there was a new era of like George Brett and Mike Schmidt. So you could see the disparity where he has guys like Mantle and Mays and Aaron playing with him or against him. By the end of his career, he's playing with, Steve Carlton and Mike Schmidt and George Brett. So he knows all these guys from playing with them or playing against them, that he did a book called An All-Stars Cardboard Memories of just the rookie cards of players during that time. So it basically starts from Hank Aaron's rookie card to, I think, Dennis Eckersley rookie's card in 76. So it's basically during his career of guys that were playing from when he started to he ended. So there's so many different sets that you can start out there. Definitely, even if you have a child or something and you want them to get involved in a card or involved in baseball cards, a set registry is a good way to go because they can pick out something that they really like. If they like a particular card company, they like Topps or they like Donruss or they like, Panini or something. There's set registries out there for certain years and certain sets. And then they get excited when they see them climbing up the ranking of, up the ladder on there. And it's just, it's a lot of fun. It's addicting, but a lot of fun.
Right. I want to get more into the registry in a little bit, but first I wanted to ask, what sort of like breaks did you take, in your collecting career, or have you been consistent since 79? And then also start to get into like what kind of cards you collect to give people a sense of, what you have.
Well, I started in 79 and I took a break around 2008 just because I had been doing it for 30 years almost at the time and had a family and started having kids, and you take a break. So I took a break for about 7 years, and during that time from 79 to '08, it was just raw cards. I didn't know much about graded cards at that time at all. Got back into it after about a 7-year break in 2015. And one of the reasons why I got out of it was the hobby seemed like it was getting in disarray. Um, it just seemed like a lot of the dealers and were trying to find the correct word here, shady. And there was just a lot of things going on that you just didn't like about it. Uh, when I took the break and got back into it, I saw with grading and auction houses, it seemed more structured now and a little bit more viable. Like you knew what you were getting was real, authentic, and it wasn't so much about the grade of the card or the value of the card, but just to know that you had somebody look at this card and confirm that it's real. If you're going to buy a raw card, when I was collecting raw cards before, it was very risky to buy a mantle card that was raw or a Mays card or Hank Aaron for hundreds or thousands of dollars when you don't know if it was a reprint or whatever. So when I decided to get back into it again, I felt more secure and more stable in saying, well, now there's somebody out there, whether it's PSA or SGC or even Beckett or whoever, that even though they were out before that, I just wasn't really involved with graded cards because it was still kind of new. And by the time I got into it in 2015, I had learned more about it. And I felt, all right, if I'm going to get back into it, I want to get back into it with a sense of security and feeling that, the cards are legit. So when I got back into it,
That's interesting because sorry to interrupt, but like there's been a lot of talk recently about trimming and alterations and
yeah,
PSA and scandals, and you're actually saying that you've been doing this a long time. You're actually saying it was worse before just because of we had nothing, and now there's still mistakes being made, but we're in a better place. That's what you're saying.
we're way in a better place, way in a better place. I mean, I know what's going on right now, and it's not a perfect thing, the grading system. Um, People are human; they're going to make mistakes unless they go totally non-biased grading, where they have machines grading cards. I don't know if they're going to go in that direction or not, but whatever they decide to do is still going to be good for the hobby because, like I said before, it was very you took at your own risk what you were going to spend on and what you were buying. But now I felt way more secure with buying graded cards. Um, Not to say that raw is terrible or anything. Um, People just collect raw cards just for the fun of it, and I do too. I collect cards just for the fun of it. But if I collect a lot of vintage, when I was collecting before, it was current players. When I got back into it in 2015, my whole strategy changed towards vintage. Why? Just because I love the history of the game, not because of value or monetary reasons, because I don't sell anything. But it was just for the history of the game and the love of the past. And those cards are a lot of money. So nobody wants to really spend a lot of money on a raw vintage card from the 40s or 50s without some sort of security knowing that, yeah, this is legit, it's real. By our interpretation, it looks real. Is there going to be mistakes? Absolutely. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be things missed. Um, it's the nature of the beast. People are human. They're going to make a mistake. But are we better off than before? Absolutely. I think it's definitely way more improved. That was the reason why I got back into this 4 years ago in 2015 was because of the sense of security. What happened in the past couple weeks is not to me. To me, it's just a hiccup in the road. Is there improvements that need to be done? Absolutely. Because you always want the buyer, the collector out there to feel as secure and safe as possible. Because people work hard for their money and they don't want to feel like they're being ripped off or they're wasting money. So I do think that it's headed in the right direction. There's going to be improvements made. I really believe that. I hope there's improvements that are made because everybody wants to see that. But yeah, I think definitely it's way better. I went to shows starting in '86, and my first experience of feeling like it was weird was there was a couple times where I had to sell cards. And when I would go to a dealer at a show and I would, ask them, what could I get for this? And you felt like you were getting totally ripped off. And then they would turn around and sell it for a lot more money than what they gave to you. And I know that's just how it goes, but it just felt like they were doing something immoral, and it felt like not real. So and it was getting a little weird. It was getting a little scared at times. So when I came back and I saw the grading and I saw that there was a third party involved that kind of had your back, it was a good feeling. And this to me, this is a hiccup. So and I hope it gets better. So it can't get worse. I think it should get better.
Right. So why don't you jump into some of the cards that you do collect now
Yeah.
and give us a taste and a feel for what we're in for here.
Well, for the one set that I was telling you on the first book, the 300 Great Baseball Cards of the 20th Century by Mike Payne, some of the cards, to give you an idea, there's rookie cards in there. They're Hall of Famers, and some of them are not. So I'll give you an example of a rookie card Hall of Famer. Here's the 54 Topps Hank Aaron rookie card. It's just a PSA 1, but it's a Hank Aaron rookie card. The good thing about baseball cards is, people might say, well, I have a 54 Topps Hank Aaron in 8, and I only have it in 1, but guess what? It's the same card. Even though it's, that's a better grade and mine's a lesser grade, the good thing about it is that it's still the same card, irregardless of the grade. Here's another card from that same set, the Al Kaline rookie, 54 Topps. And this is all from that same set. There's a Carl Yastrzemski rookie, 60 Topps. And like I was saying, in that set, it's not all about just rookie card Hall of Famers. They pick cards in that set for many different reasons, not just because it's a rookie Hall of Famer, but it could be because the guy had a great season. For example, the 77 Topps Mark the Bird Fidrich. That particular year, he was the biggest name in baseball. He came out of nowhere. He was a young rookie phenom, started the All-Star game in '76, which was in Philadelphia. And he was all over Sports Illustrated. He was like a lightning in a bottle. He just came on and then disappeared a few years later. But that's one of the cards why they picked for this set, because it was just, he had a great year. Here's another odd card, 76 Topps Kurt Bavacqua Bubblegum Champ. So there was a TV show that came on with Joe Garagiola, and he had a bubblegum blowing contest. Kurt Bavacqua, who was not an all-star player, never was an all-star player, was a utility player, won a bubblegum contest. Topps decided to make a card on this. Mike Payne decided to put this card as part of the 300 Great Baseball Cards of the 20th Century. Here's another unique one. Why is this guy in there? Why is this guy part of the 300 Great Cards? Simple reason. He had a huge afro. That's it. 1976 Topps Oscar Gamble. You look right in the book.
Shaq.
It's because it's a gigantic afro. So you get the point that, it's not just rookie cards and Hall of Famers. It could be a card of a particular season. This guy had a great season. There's a Mark McGwire card from '98, the year he, passed Roger Maris single season home run record. So they have that card in there. They have the Kirk Gibson card from '89 Upper Deck when he hit that infamous home run against the Dodgers with 2 really bad knees and 2 really bad ankles. So it could be a card commemorating a moment. There's a '59 Fleer Ted Williams when he signs a contract in 1959. That's part of it. So that's why I was drawn to that particular set more than any of the other ones, is because it wasn't just the rookie cards. It wasn't just Hall of Famers. It was cards of players of a season that he had, or a moment he had, or a thing that he did, whatever. So that's what it drove me to that set. So it's a fun set.
So for the sets, how much does the grade work into like the calculation of how complete the set is, or how highly ranked you are? I'm not sure. I don't know how that works.
Well, they have a list of the cards first at the set, and they go by what they call a weight, and they determine based on how old the card is and how rare it is. They'll give it a weight from 1 to 10. So, for example, on this particular set, um, the 76 Topps Oscar Gamble has a weight of 1, so you get 1 point for that. If you have the Hank Aaron card, I think this has a weight of 6. So they get the grade, which is a 1, times it by the weight, which is 6. You get 7 points for this card. Then they add up your points, and you get a GPA, a grade point, literally a grade point average. So every time you add a card, and it's also the percentage completed. So it's percentage completed divided by the grade, divided by the weight that they set in the beginning, and the weight is set due on how rare the card is. So if it's a more newer card, most of the cards that are in the 90s are a weight of 1. Some of the cards in the 80s have a couple of them have 2s, and a lot of cards in the 70s will have a weight of 3, so forth and so on. The cards in the 60s have a higher weight, and as the older the card is, the higher the weight. So like the 52 Topps Mantle that's in this set, I think has a weight of 9. So if you get a card of that card graded a 5, you get 9 for the weight, plus 5 for the grade, plus another point for a percentage being completed. You get a lot of points for getting that, and that really bumps you up. So yeah, they determine they have a value system based on how rare the card is, what the grade you got, and percentage of completed. So that's PSA's philosophy.
That's cool. Shifting gears a little bit, why don't you tell us about the YouTube channel that you have and give people a taste of the YouTube channel?
Yeah, so I have a YouTube channel. It's called Ray from Philly, and I do a lot of different things in there, not just the PSA set registries. I do a top 10 episode on there of the top 10 rookie cards for certain decades. I do a show on there, episode for the other book that I was explaining, an All-Star Cardboards Memories. I do blaster box breaks with my son. I'll do modern player cards and do speculative buying of current players that you think could be a Hall of Famer, because it's not just about vintage cards. To me, if you're a collector, you collect everything, not just vintage. You collect vintage and you collect modern. So we'll do what I call speculative buying, my son and I, and we'll look into current players that are playing today. And you might say, well, how do you know you think this guy has a shot at the Hall of Fame? And with baseball, it's all statistics. It's all numbers. And to get into the Hall of Fame, it's basically you have to have a milestone, 3,000 hits or 500 homers, or if you're a pitcher, 3,000 strikeouts or 300 wins. If you don't have any of those milestones, then awards, MVP, Cy Youngs, World Series championships, so forth and so on. So I try and come up with looking at current players and constantly looking at their statistics and figure out, okay, 3,000 hits, the average player plays until he's about maybe 40 years old, 39. So you want to see if he has halfway to 3,000 hits by the age of 30. So if he has 1,500 hits by 30, he's on pace to get 3,000 hits. For 500 homers, you want him to have 250 homers by 30 years old. If you want to go a little younger, 25, you just cut that in half. So you want him to have 750 hits or 125 homers by the age of 25. And if the guy's on pace to do that, you might want to take a shot and get his rookie card and hold on to it. And it's fun to follow the player's career because it's almost like investing in a stock to watch it grow. Now, the guy could bust and do totally nothing. Then he could succeed. And like I said, you're not doing it to make money, but you want to see the value of your cards grow. You spent money on it. You don't want to see it to go to waste. And it's fun to watch the player grow in his career. This way you can see your value of your cards going up. And I try and tell people, don't really buy rookie cards that are already going up way, way up in value. For example, the Mike Trout rookie is about $1,000 already right now. Um, I think that's a little bit on the risky side because the player's still young and he can get hurt, he can get an injury, something can happen to him in the news, and then it's happened. I've been collecting for 40 years. Perfect example, Mark McGwire was the hottest thing on the planet in 1998. His rookie card was going for hundreds of dollars when he broke Roger Maris's single season record. Um, then a few years later, the steroid scandal came out. That card is now in the $5 bin box. So you want to be careful not to go too crazy and spend a lot of money on a rookie card. No matter how great the player is, anything can happen to that player. And so I do and say invest into a current player, but you want to invest in a low risk, high reward. So if you want to buy a Max Scherzer rookie in a Gem Mint 10 that's going for $80, I say go for it because to me it's a low risk. It's not a lot of money you're investing in. He's on path to get 3,000 strikeouts. He already has 2,500, and he's only in his early 30s. So he's way ahead of my pace that I feel he's on the way to the Hall of Fame. And once you have a player that's a Gem in 10 and does get inducted in the Hall of Fame, there's no telling where his value of that rookie card, especially in a Gem in 10, goes. So, yeah, that's been a lot of what I've been talking about recently is vintage and modern, where a lot of people just collect vintage, or a lot of guys just collect modern. You should do both. Vintage is the safer way to go because the player's career is already over, and what he's already accomplished. He's could already be in the Hall of Fame, and that's going to do a nice steady incline over the years. But the rate of investment, and I learned that from you, the ROI, there's more rate of investment, I think, on modern current players because they're still playing and they can still achieve higher great things. As long as you're not investing, a lot of money into the current player, I would say absolutely buy as many current players as you can. And the percentage of those current players are each year a higher percentage of growing than a vintage card. Vintage cards are going to steadily go up 2%, 3%, 5% a year. But you could buy the Max Scherzer rookie, 2 years ago was $30 and now is almost 100. So it went up 200-300% in a couple of years. It's not, the value is not as high, but the percent increase was a lot higher because you're buying these cards at a low price when their careers are just started. So I say don't ignore the modern, pay attention to the modern. There's growth to be made in modern cards. If you're smart and don't go overboard and buy a player that's already won a bunch of MVP awards and is a mega star and is Mike Trout and has already reached $1,000 because you never know what could happen to him.
For sure. Plus, there's a lot to be said about collecting modern and kind of connecting yourself to the modern game and being able to watch and enjoy, who's currently playing while you're collecting. I wanted to touch on you and your son collecting together. What's it like being able to share the hobby with a child? I don't have a lot of guys that have talked about that yet, so I thought that was something interesting to touch on, and I know that that's something that I'm looking forward to in the future. Can you just talk about that?
Yeah. Well, it's something that I experienced from my grandfather. My grandfather, I connected with him, and I always will have unbelievably strong memories and feelings towards him. If there's certain things I see on TV or certain old baseball movies or anything related, I always draw back to sitting with my grandfather and talking Philadelphia A's baseball, or talking Joe DiMaggio and hearing stories. And that's what got me to love the game. I love the game first before the cards because of relating to him. But then what got me to love the game even more was seeing players on cardboard and him talking to me about, these guys and what they accomplish, and hearing the stories it made it seem like they were superhuman. And then watching the game with him on TV and hearing stories about it, it was unbelievable. So I passed that along to my son, and baseball is a tough sport for kids today to watch because it's a slower paced sport. It takes patience. It's not a lot of high action like football or basketball. And I try to explain that to my son, and I said it's more of a game of chess. It's like it's a thinking man's game, and you always have to think. But that's what makes the game great. It's not something that comes to you really quick. You have to be alert. You have to pay attention. And then I'm explaining to him now the stories that my grandfather explained to me about his players. Now I'm explaining to my son about my idol was Mike Schmidt and Steve Carlton and Pete Rose and Reggie Jackson. And what's really cool about that was when I was a kid, I could see old players on TV or magazines come up, and I knew exactly who they were. I recognized Jimmy Fox and Mickey Cochran instantly. My son now can point out Mike Schmidt and Robin Yount. I don't know if there's any 12-year-old out there that could point out Mike Schmidt and Robin Yount and George Brett and Cal Ripken. Those guys are long been retired, but it's a connection and it's a bond that I can't even explain, that you connect with your son. And baseball cards does that. The game does it, but I think cards just adds another element to that. It just adds another element of you connecting with your son and teaching about the history of the game. And that's why, yeah, he does follow all the current players and knows them all, but it's important to know about the past as well.
Does he collect something specific? Do you help him collect? Like what is his angle?
Yeah, like he knows all about my set registries and he knows exactly what I need. And he'll see something on eBay or he'll see something on Facebook and tell me, "Don't you need this card here?" I'd like, shouldn't you be getting this card here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." So, but he likes collecting a lot of the current players too, because the same reason why I collect the current players, when I pulled a Schmidt or a Jackson out of a pack, I wanted to go and watch him play on TV that night.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the best advice I can give to anybody, is that when you have a son that's going to collect current players, it's going to, kids growing up in their town years ago would only watch their team, their local team. Now they have an interest in all the other teams.
Mm-hmm.
So, he has a Jose Altuve rookie or a Paul Goldschmidt rookie. And if ESPN or MLB Network will have a game on that night of a totally different team, he has interest in that game because, oh, I have his rookie card. I want to see how he plays. I want to see how he does. Years ago, kids only watched their local team. And now with, collecting cards and the hobby and the fun of collecting guys from all over, you never would have thought you would have any interest in watching the Kansas City Royals game here in Philadelphia. But we are. So because he has a Whit Merrifield rookie and that's one of his favorite players. Or he likes Adam Jones from Arizona, and now he's watching Diamondbacks games. I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? So cards will do that. Cards will get you involved not only in the game and not only in your own team, but in watching other teams from other cities as well. That's the main thing why I like having kids collecting cards today, is it gets them involved not just in their own team, but it's fine. You should know your own team, but you should know players all over the league.
This is a question for my audience, but also for me personally. How did you get him into it? Without like, how much of it is nurture versus nature, where you're like, collect with me, or is it you kind of entice him slowly? Like, how does that work?
It was enticing slowly. I basically, I think the binders really has something to do with it. When the kid sees the cards in the packs, it's nice to them. But then when you organize them into a binder, it just does something. That's what it did to me. Like, I started in '79 and I had packs and I kept them in my grandfather's cigar boxes. We didn't use shoe boxes. We used cigar boxes. But then when I got the binder and you have your name on the binder and you see them structured in pages like that and you flip them through, it just adds a different element
Hmm.
to the cards. So I think once he got his first binder, and then I took him to a show, and he's seen everything laid out in display cases, the presentation draws you in. And then going to a card store, and I'm fortunate that I hang at a card store every single Saturday, where the same guys will sit at this table in the middle of the floor, and we have lunch there, and it's a hangout, and we trade with each other, and it got him involved. So now he'll trade along with the other guys, or show. We have a show and tell every week at the table. So it's something to get them interested. So we'll do a show and tell what you get for this week, or where did you pick up, and he'll show what he picked up this week, and they'll show what they picked up this week, and that's what gets him really involved. So it was a progression of a lot of things: the packs, the binders for the presentation, a card show, just pretty much put him over the top, and then go into a card store. Just anything related to that. Just packs might not just do it, so you have to just show it. I didn't force it down his throat.
Yep.
Going to the shows, we have the show here called the Philly Show 3 times a year, which is probably like the fourth or fifth biggest show in the country. It's the oldest show in the country, that's for sure. It's been out since 1975. And but going to the first show and seeing all them tables and talking to the dealers, and he got real excited. Thank God. So I mean, if it would have been fine if he wasn't, but I think the shows was kind of like the icing on the cake.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been talking to some collectors recently about how there needs to be more of a more of like an in-person connection to the hobby.
Right.
It's very digital right now, and there needs to be some sort of meeting in the middle of digital versus in person. And I feel like the shows are obviously a great way to do that, but I would love to find, trade nights or things like that. Even just like you said, sitting around a table and like showing what you picked up that week, giving you that personal connection of uh,
Right.
instead of just me at my desk with my fancy light looking at my cards. It'd be cool to have people in person to share that with, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the Philly show is only 3 times a year, and I know that if we don't go to a show after about 2 months, he does get bored with it, because I'll be like, "Oh, look what's on eBay." Yeah, okay. But then when the show comes up and we're driving to the show, and then we walk in and you see 200 tables, it's mind blowing. And I took him to the National here in Atlantic City in 2016, and you know, the first thing he did when he came home was like look at the highlights of the games that night, and go on MLB Network's channel, and Dad, we just got his rookie. He went 3 for 4 today. I'm like, it did its job then. It served its purpose. Just selling cards on eBay, I don't think are really going to get that interested, or just, I think going to stores, if there's still a lot of stores around. I'm fortunate to have 2 stores around here. Going to stores and going to shows definitely adds a level of excitement for kids. Absolutely, and I'm starting to see more kids at the shows.
For sure. Are you guys going to National this year?
No, we're going next year, which will be in Atlantic City. Definitely be there. I
Sweet.
plan on it.
So last question, what's the future look like for you and the hobby? Or maybe you and your son and the hobby in general. Like where do you what's next?
Well, I'm starting to delve into other sports. I do think basketball is definitely huge. Where he's really into the NBA, because the games are definitely more exciting than baseball, and it's just exciting. The plays, the spectacular plays, the dunks, the movements, the 3-point shots. Um, we're definitely gearing towards basketball a lot more. And I'm starting with the vintage basketball first. My favorite player was Dr. J, and I want to get his rookie card and the 80 Topps Magic Bird triple panel rookie card, and maybe someday get an 86 Fleer Jordan. Um, and he knows all about that. He's like, "Are we going to get a Jordan rookie sticker or a regular?" I'm like, "Oh my God." He knows there's a sticker card. Okay, we'll see. We'll try my best, but basketball is definitely something we're going to be gearing towards pretty soon, because I think I have enough baseball around right now uh, to choke a cow. So we're going to be gearing towards other sports. for sure. Basketball is one of them, and maybe to dabble a little bit in football. But I think basketball is right up there with baseball as far as hobby goes,
Yeah.
because the NBA just knows how to market their players.
Yeah, for sure. It's great that you have the memories of you and your grandfather, and um you kind of grew up with baseball, so you have that like nostalgia and connection to it. That's how it is for guys my age with basketball. Like I grew up with MJ, and I have just this extremely strong connection to the game itself, and like you said, cards just amplify that even more. So to have your son doing both sports is kind of cool. You
Yeah,
guys are diving into both. It's kind of adding to the excitement.
and it gets him to want to play too. He's been playing little league and playing in basketball leagues since he was 6 years old. So it gets them involved to not only watch it but to play it, and that's good because I don't see enough kids playing as much as I did when I was a kid.
Mhm.
When I drive around through a lot of the neighborhoods today, a lot of kids are inside playing video games and things like that, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. But it's good that every once in a while just see a playground and see a baseball game, or on a blacktop watching a basketball game, a 3-on-3. It's tough to get 18 kids to play baseball 9-on-9, but basketball, you only need two or three or four guys to play a 2-on-2 or a 3-on-3. It's a lot easier to get a basketball game going than a baseball game going, for sure. So the cards does so many things. I tell people it gets the kid's mind occupied. It gets him to learn about history of the game. It gets him to want to watch the current players and see how they grow, and it gets him to want to even play. And that's the whole point.
How are you guys balancing your finances and your money with the hobby? Are you able to kind of set money aside for the cards you're after, or are you guys approaching it in a reasonable manner?
Yeah, I mean, there's times where it gets a little out of hand because you see stuff that you want, and um, you could go overboard very easily. But I try and tell people, that's why I do set registries, because um, you go to a show or you go to a store and you want this and you want that. And yeah, I would love to have that, but I'm just sticking with what I'm doing and sticking with the set. Yeah, I would love to have this card, but it's not a part of my set. If I veer out of that, you can you can go crazy and spend a lot of money. So have a game plan and stay structured, because it you could lose control really quick.
For sure, great advice. Actually, last question. Give me some baseball players that I should be watching in terms of players that you like. You mentioned Scherzer. That's a really good one. I hadn't thought of that. Maybe like a younger guy that we should look out for as an up and comer.
Well, right now, Nolan Arenado is a stud. He came out in 2013. For more recent, Cody Bellinger from the Los Angeles Dodgers is going crazy. Younger than that, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is the hot prospect right now in baseball. Pete Alonso for the New York Mets is another hot rookie this year. Fernando Tatis Jr. is another hot rookie this year. He had a father who played in the major leagues, I think in the early '90s. So they're the hot prospects to look into now. Is Tatis, Pete Alonso, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and then a couple years further back would probably be Christian Yelich and Cody Bellinger. Um, they're the hot young players right now that people are geared towards.
Great. All right. Well, I really appreciate the baseball knowledge and the exposure there, and the stories about you and your family. I think that's something new that I haven't had on the channel much, and I really enjoyed that. So,
I appreciate it.
any last minute thoughts for my audience?
No, thanks for having me on, Josh. I enjoy your channel a lot, and it was a lot of fun sharing my hobby and sharing my passion for baseball cards, and the hobby in general is it's not dying, it's not going anywhere. It's going to be here for a long time. So thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for joining. I will be sure and post a link to your channel and get some folks checking out your stuff.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.